be building my second KBD67 Lite mechanical keyboard DIY kit from KBDfans.com. Like the last kit, it arrived to me inside of a zip-up carrying case with everything you need to assemble it, not including the switches, lube, and keycaps. Inside, you'll find a bag with hardware and tools, screw-in stabilizers, a black coiled USB-C cable, and the keyboard case. This time, it's in the color black. The case is made up of a top and bottom piece, and it's made of ABS plastic. The USB-C port is located on the left side, and there's a KBDfans logo on the bottom. Under the case, you'll find the rest of the kit, including the bottom foam sheet, the injection molded polycarbonate plate, the mute silicone layer, and the wired hot swap PCB with RGB support. With my last KBD67 Lite, I opted for the silicone layer that goes into the case, but for this one, I'll be adding extra bottom foam instead. To start, I put down my rose pink American Haptics Workmat. I began to organize the parts on my desk and grabbed my V3 screw-in stabilizers sent to me from the Keycaps company to use with this build instead of the default ones. Next, I brought out the PCB and grabbed my pink tweezers from Stationery Stash. I wanted to test out the PCB before assembling the keyboard, so I plugged it in and opened up VIA. Then I touched the tips of the tweezers to each hot swap socket. Each key lit up in the app, indicating that the PCB was fully working. This PCB is ready to go, so I unplugged it and grabbed my C³Equalz V3 stabilizers. This colorway features dark gray housings with a silver wire. This kit also comes with washers, copper screws, and a Soulmate modding kit. For the wires, I grabbed the 6.25 unit spacebar and 3 2-unit wires. I went ahead and opened up the housings to get them ready for lube and mods. To prepare my work area, I put down a shop rag and opened up my Soulmate kit. This kit is included with every V3 stab kit from the Keycaps company. It contains adhesive bumpers and gaskets to fine-tune your stabilizers to your liking without having to source your own materials. I'll be starting with applying stabilizer housing mats to the PCB with my fine-tip tweezers. I chose the one that is 0.1 millimeter in thickness. I made sure to orientate each one in the correct direction depending on how the stabilizers will sit. Next, I add some stabilizer stem mats right where the cutout is inside of the housing mats, and for these, I went with the 0.3 millimeter option. You can layer them to your liking, but adding too many layers can make it feel mushy. These mats are designed to dampen the sound of the stabs hitting the PCB. This is the same combination I went for with the mods with my other KBD67 build, and I liked it a lot, so I decided not to change it up. The next step in the Soulmate kit is to add Holy Mod mats. With my other build, I went with the Teflon material, so I decided to try the Poron material for this board instead. These go into the stems, and I use my fine-tip tweezers to apply them, as well as a stem holder to make things easier. I always have to take my time doing this step because it can be quite tedious. Before I continue with any other mods from the Soulmate kit, I grab my 205G0 and my Kinetic Labs palette to lube the housings and stems. Like all my builds, I'll be lubing the wires from my grease syringe kit after the stabs are installed, so we'll skip this step for now. I assembled all the stabilizers with their wires, then grabbed the last mod from the Soulmate kit. These are strips to dampen the sound of the wires, so I placed them underneath in the middle where the wires will sit on the PCB. Because the spacebar is a lot longer than the rest, I used 2 pads on either side. Once all the wire pads are good to go, the stabilizers can now be installed onto the PCB. I brought out my new Wowstick precision screwdriver and opened up the screws and washers onto my Workmat. I made sure to add a washer to each screw as I went along the board. Unfortunately, I've been having some memory card storage issues lately, and I wasn't able to capture this entire process. However, the installation process is pretty standard like most screw-in stabs, so not much was missed. Here's how the PCB looks so far. I'll now be lubing the wires, so I added a switch from this build to each stabilizer to prepare for fine tuning. I brought out my stabilizer grease syringe kit from the KeyCap, which you can see more info about by visiting the link in the description. Don't forget that you can get 5% off this kit by using my code MOCHI. I used a stem holder and went along each stabilizer, applying the grease and moving the slider up and down to help spread it. I used some spare keycaps to preview what the stabilizer would feel like, fine-tuning it along the way by adding more grease as needed. After I was satisfied with them, I removed the keycaps and switches and layered the mute silicone and polycarbonate plate on top. For this build, I'll be using JWK Durock linear switches sent to me as part of a switch modders bundle from 1UP Keyboards. These come with everything I needed to lube these, including 205G0 and film, and they feature a 67-gram spring with 110 total switches. You can find a link to the bundle in the description down below. I need 67 in total for this build, but first I used only 6 to keep the PCB, foam, and plate sandwiched together in the corners and in the center of the top and bottom rows. I used the short black screws that came with the kit to secure it by screwing them into the plate from the bottom of the PCB. After that, I inserted the rest of the switches. Once the switches were all added, I wanted to test if they were inserted correctly, so I plugged in the PCB and used the keyboard checker in VIA. Everything is good to go, so the next step will be to open up the case. At this point, I went ahead and added the rubber feet to the bottom. Unfortunately, my electric screwdriver is too short to reach the screws in the back, so I used the screwdriver from my iFixit kit instead. Once those were out, I separated the bottom half from the case and grabbed the silicone bumpers that came with the keyboard kit. Each bumper goes into a designated spot on the top half of the case, and I used my fine tip tweezers to help me. After that, I turned my PCB sandwich over and added my bottom foam layer to it. As I mentioned earlier on, I opted for a second foam layer and I placed that one right over the first one. I carefully placed all of the layers into the top of the case, then added the bottom piece to close it up. I screwed in the original 4 screws into the corners and then opened up the pack with the rest of the screws to secure the rest of it. Here's how the keyboard build looks after assembly with all of the switches included. With my last KBD67 Lite build, I add the bottom silicone insert, and at this point, I very much regret not getting it for this build as well. My main purpose of not getting it was to give this board a different sound and feel, since the theme of each KBD67 are opposites, but I'm already missing how much heavier and sturdier it felt. Fortunately, this is something I can add later on, but for now, I'm still loving the visual look of the keyboard, and I think the switches and stabilizers look great together. For keycaps, I'll be going with the Summoner dark version of the DSA Magic Girl Keyset. This colorway was sent to me from the Keycaps. You can save 5% on this keyset, as well as the other Magic Girl variations from this collection, by using my code MOCHI on the Keycaps' website. I really loved how the cleric version of this keyset looked with my white KBD67, so I was excited to work on this visually opposite keyboard to match. The accent keycaps in this set are purple, and the novelties are also just as cute and aesthetic. This keycap set has a DSA profile, and it's manufactured by Infinikey. They are MX compatible and made of PBT plastic with dye sublimated designs. I also received the specialty kit for this colorway, which looks just as amazing, and I'll be sharing some photos of it alongside this build at the end of the video. Just like the last KBD67 Lite build, I'll be adding Artisan keycaps from Capsmiths. You can get 15% your own Artisan keycaps by using my code MOCHI on their website, and that code will expire on January 31st, 2022. Again, I went with 4 designs that feature colors that match this keyset, and I also made sure they were placed in a similar order to match the opposite build. This keyboard build is now done, so the last step is to plug it in with my green coiled USB-C cable from Personal Loot to see what it looks like. Here's a preview of the RGB as well. Overall, I had so much fun working on this build, and despite the fact that I already built such a similar keyboard just a few weeks ago, I couldn't wait to finish it. I was so excited to see how it would look next to the other Magic Girl build, and I wasn't disappointed at all. While I wish I had the bottom silicone this time around, I'm still really happy with the sound profile and the feeling of typing on this keyboard. I also think these JWK linear switches are the smoothest linear switch in my collection, and if you love linear switches, these are a must-have. At the time of filming this video, this keyboard kit on the KBDfans website is priced at $119 USD, and there are still several color options available. As I mentioned in my other KBD67 Lite build video, this kit is pretty budget friendly compared to other barebones kits, and it would be a great starter build for anyone who wants to get into mechanical keyboards. The PCB is a hot swap, so if you aren't comfortable with soldering, I would very much recommend checking this kit out. I didn't mention it in this video yet, but the KBD67 Lite kit can also be purchased as a wireless kit, and you'll find that there's a lot of options for add-ons. There are also different plate colors available for extra customization. As for the keycaps, DSA Magic Girl will always be a top favorite of mine. Like I said before, I was also sent the specialty kit, which I use on my Board Source 3x4 macro pad. The build for that device was customized to match this one, and I even added more Artisans from Capsmiths to it. If you like this build and want to see more, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be sharing a video soon for the macro pad shared just a moment ago, and another overview video will be out soon. Hope you are all enjoying your week so far, and thank you for watching!